All right, everyone, I am supposedly live. We'll give it a second and see if that's actually the case, though. YouTube and Twitch normally do it fine, but sometimes Odyssey, it doesn't get back starting soon because you have to delete the old stream, sometimes clear the cache. It's not entirely clear why. I do expect that they will eventually handle that little issue. But I'm just waiting for that because, of course, there is a live chat over on Odyssey. I will be answering Q&As today. Super chats on YouTube, chats on Twitch sometimes, as well as on Odyssey. And we will be clanking today, by the way. Yes, we have coffee. I needed it. I sucked out a monster earlier. Don't really do the coffee mornings so much anymore. I'm thinking about returning to that, though. It's probably better for your health. But I need more caffeine. I'm going to have to double the coffee dosage. Anyway, we have some various things to talk about. In addition to the super chat Q&A that we always do. By the way, we're almost at one Biden loser unit already. Keep in mind that one Biden loser unit is 300 live viewers because that's about as many people as actually give a shit when Biden gives a speech. Like they had, I think they actually managed to get 10,000 on the last live stream on the White House YouTube page, which isn't, considering the number of subscribers they supposedly have, minus the bots and repeat account shills that go there just to bolster Biden's approval in name only. I think they got to 10,000, but they got over 1 million subscribers. So that's not necessarily legendary levels. By the way, we will be talking briefly here about Joe Biden's foibles and fumbles. By the way, Kirsten Powers of, I think, CNN, there's an article right now up on RCP. You should go and see it because it says, no, Biden's not failing or flailing. I don't know that I heard that term from anyone else before I actually used it. So again, the legacy media doesn't think up anything for itself. But the biggest thing, the biggest takeaway from his ninth, I think, press conference, which was a few days ago, other than countermanding his January 6th statements and questioning the legitimacy of elections, for which he should be impeached and removed from office. I was told that was a dog whistle for insurrection by the liberals out there. The biggest thing was basically goading Putin on to invade Ukraine. Well, they're not going to pay a major price for a minor incursion. Yeah, Russia only wants a little piece of Ukrainian land. Just a couple of provincial areas far to the east happen to have a major warm water port, by the way. It's okay if he takes that over. We won't do anything about that. And so we're only concerned if he invades Kiev or something. Now, I would think if they move into mainland Ukraine, I would think that would cause a prolonged battle. And Ukraine, while it may very well lose, lethal aid or not that we're giving to them. And I have no problems with arms dealing. Giving people weapons, as long as we're making money off, it's okay. Although I think we're not making any money off those transactions. Very, very sad. That's fine. I think we should have a martial society worldwide and sell guns and bombs and stuff to everyone. It would make us a lot of money. Let them sort things out for themselves. They're all supposedly independent nations. Let them fight amongst themselves. They will anyway. There is no solution on Ukraine. Two nuclear powers can't go toe-to-toe directly, which means it's up to Ukraine. If the Visegrad people, the Polish or something, decide to help them, then it would be difficult for Russia. I think Poland alone, if they were to ally with the Ukrainians, probably would curb stomp the Russians in a direct engagement because their combined power, as far as land forces, you'd have similar manpower. You'd have thousands and thousands of tanks and every other goodie under the sun, other than maybe thermobarics. Those have to be used out in the open field sparingly. Otherwise, you kill a bunch of civilians. And even the Russians, I don't think their brass balls aren't quite that shiny at the moment. Russia still has its own problems to deal with. That being said, Biden's not going to do anything. He's made it clear that basically it'll be a strongly worded letter. So it's wonderful to have Biden as the asterisk president, isn't it? Basically destroying everything. We should also talk about Psaki. The other day, she had a little quip, and I fact-checked this, mostly true. It's only kind of sort of out of context, but Psaki coming out saying, well, if the American people are suffering, then they should just go and punch a punching bag and have your chai smoothie and your arugula and then go back to work on Monday. Now, when people are trying to bring up context, it makes it somehow sound even worse. It's basically like, go back to your workaday thing, and on the weekend, just pout. You drink a margarita, I believe specifically is what Jen Psaki said. It's this kind of aloof, out of touch mentality, this dismissive attitude towards the plight of the average American in the wake of joblessness, which is still high. There are plenty of people out there that simply dropped out of labor force participation, or they're underemployed, that are paying a lot more, that are making less with regards to inflation. Their wages aren't keeping pace, that have their kids going to school. They're treated like pariahs. They have to wear a hazmat suit to go to school. This dismissive attitude towards the average American, it's not a minority at this point, it's a majority of people in some states, is deeply unsettling, and it'll also cause them to pay a hefty price, I think, in the midterms. Then we've got Sinema. I covered this today. She was censored by the Arizona Democrats. Effectively, the Democrats have become a top-down party completely, so they no longer remember what senators are for. And of course, she's laughing at them, Manchin as well. Why would they want to give up the power to screw the entire party over and get all the attention on themselves? The Republicans, by the way, love it, because then the Democrats have to explain how it's the Republicans obstructing when Manchin and Sinema are members of the Democratic Party. So I just wanted to talk about those things first, and now we will go to super chats as well as regular chats. Nobody, I think, has said anything over on Odyssey yet. I'm wondering, is it live? Yeah, there are people watching. It's just they have to file in. Okay. Anyway, cats are going at each other like raped apes. Happens multiple times a day. Third man, you say China is a paper tiger, but they constantly make ground on a West that has seemingly no will to stop them. Why are you so sure China will fail? For the same reason that people have the same concerns about Japan and foreign investment in de facto post-colonial mentality in parts of the third world, which they tried as well. China's following the Japanese playbook. Japan, once it started its downward spiral, they've been in a recession since the 1990s. The same thing will happen. Investment will dry up, growth will dry up because China can't grow anymore. It can't even feed its own people. And so it's not a long-term threat in that way. The biggest threat is that they attempt to attack Taiwan. They bully some other border provinces, or they simply remain a purse for the Russians, or something along those lines. They're effectively attempting to colonize swaths of East Africa. There is pushback against them, significant political and social pushback. But I do maintain my belief they are a paper tiger. Some random bloke, hey, stay. Did you see Andrew Torba on Tim Pool's podcast? Yes, as well as before that, the CEO of Getter, which is why I remarked the other day, I'm souring on Getter, continuing to use it as a site because of the non-responses of their CEO, not only on Nick Fuentes, but on censorship in general. It seems that the TOS on Getter are somehow actually less clear than they are on Twitter somehow. and that's a problem. Now, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for the time being and hope that they change that. And I don't believe in the honeypot bullshit, because I said that about Parler too. But as a site, if you're going to be, hey, we're the free speech Twitter, you can't start off by purging large numbers of people. And so I think they should let Fuentes back on. He's done nothing wrong. I guess the justification is, well, he's under investigation by the feds, or he had his bank accounts closed or something. Where is the idea of innocent until proven guilty? Where is that? And did I just drop off of YouTube somehow? It's not entirely clear. No, there seems to have been a glitch just now, and the YouTube views actually disappeared for a second. It's Gremlins. There's Gremlins in the system. Let me go up there and make sure that it's still playing. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I guess Google is watching us at the moment. We'll see what happens. J-Dog, I will support going to war over Ukraine on the sole condition that instead of sending the military, we send Hunter Biden alone to fight the Russians. That's fine. Yeah, we can send all the leftoids that are like, they're very pro-Eastern Bloc. You can go over there, talk to the Russians as they advance. Maybe they'll let you into a Moscow. They'll give you a commie block apartment and stale cabbage and stuff. Yeah, I think that we're having problems actually at the moment on StreamYard as opposed to YouTube. It doesn't seem to be having a problem over there. The cat's all totally wild and woolly. They've got a cat tree right next to the stairs. Oh boy, they love climbing around that, just like a couple of little orangutans. The Arcadian 300. I'm a Canadian moving to New Hampshire next year. Ah, good. It's miserable here. If a woman can identify as a man, then I can identify as American. Yeah, I guess if you come across illegally, then there's no standards involved. So it'll be a lot harder if you try to immigrate or become a resident legally. Then you have to have a vaccine, the papers, hire the lawyer, pay the fees, learn the lingo and stuff, understand civics. If you just fly to Mexico and I guess walk across because there's no border control, somehow you're treated better at this point. Spider Eternal, putting together any Slavic folklore books? I definitely would if I could find any that were decent and out of copyright. I've got an issue with Amazon right now. It's been 2 weeks and they still haven't processed Indian Masonry. And then they put a hold on another book of Kabbalah, actually, and said, well, you have to re-upload it as public domain. I'm like, I've done this literally now almost 400 times. I've never received this query. Have you changed your TOS? I contacted them earlier to clarify, because it's like, normally my books don't fall under public domain. They've got unique forwards. They've got unique formats. They've got unique cover art. I've gone through them line by line. I've de-archaicized the language, which many of these works are English in origin. You have to change a bunch of spelling. The interiors are totally different. Things are redacted. Corrections are made. It's not a public domain work. It's a derived work, but it is its own edition. It's my copyright. It's got my name on it for a reason as editor. These people are dead. They don't hold a copyright. The original work's public domain. My derivation is absolutely not. This is fairly standard trademark law. Dr. Zeodin, not to incite rage, but Razor was and is critical of Sinema. Saw it on his live stream on Friday. Said he lost faith in the GOP. Please elaborate. Well, I mean, he's right to not have faith in the GOP. What are they best at? Snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. The populists have balls. The libertarian fringe of the party, like Rand Paul, they have balls. Most of them are still neocons. This is changing. They're getting better. This requires mass civic action at the lower level. This requires civic action at the local and state level to force the neocons out of positions where they're in charge of local elections, where they're no longer in charge of state houses. You can get rid of them. The GOP is great. It'll go back to being the party of pre-dementia Reagan or Eisenhower or something. That's wonderful. But he's correct. And Sinema, keep in mind, she votes 90% with the Dems. She just doesn't want to undo the filibuster. And but that is a big thing. We do need to give credit where credit is due. Effectively, Sinema and Manchin did hold the line, upholding the Senate rules, which is, I mean, the Senate's not meant to be directly democratic. So they did a good job. I will give them credit for that, even if it's entirely self-serving. Razor Fist, I think, is more reluctant to give them credit for that. I would maybe diverge with him somewhat on that. Johnny D. Smithson, Sinema voting in favor of the voting bill proves she's just a con, refusing to represent Arizona. No one wants the vote bill. Yeah, but the thing is, you're not going to get the voting bill unless you undo the filibuster. So it's DOA, as was fairly predictable. People need to contact Sinema. If you are an Arizonan or a West Virginia, contact Sinema or Manchin, praise them for their decision, and urge them to hold the line, because they are still under massive pressure. And what I've warned about is they may be holding now, but what if some carrots and sticks come into effect? No pun on the sticks, of course, different spelling. And they manage to get them to say, okay, just this once we'll bypass the filibuster, like they did with the infrastructure bill, I think. That would be bad. It would effectively end our republic and convert us into a one ideology system, sort of like the doppelganger of China. They've got one party with some sub-ideologies. We'd have one ideology with a couple parties that were the same thing. Actually, the Chinese system almost makes more sense than what they want to attempt to convert the United States into. Adonis Adams, I had a dream where you and I were at a coffee shop, excitedly looking at multicolored coffee mugs and furnaces with cool designs on them. Interesting. I had a dream the other night that a spider as big as my hand, I was like, there was a food processor, and for some reason I wanted to clean it out. It had been in a garage or some shit, was full of leaves. And I was scooping all the debris out, and a spider like this big climbed on me and bit me. And I killed the spider, but then somehow it fell into my shirt and bit me again. I don't know. There's no real meaning to it. I'm assuming that I had like a cramp or something in my sleep. Perfect coffee. They have special milk for coffee in this country. It doesn't need to be refrigerated for some reason until you open it. Silver Kestrel. Do you think the negative effects on children due to fascism will differ between red and blue states? Oh, yes, there will be a huge difference. Keeping in mind that the more rural red areas of the country, there's a higher proportion of homeschooling and charter schools anyway. So that counterbalances. Usually some of the more rural areas in blue states, like Vermont, New Hampshire, which leans blue or did until recently, have higher educational attainment. Minnesota's consistently near the top, and not because of the Minneapolis-St. Paul region, by the way. Now it's flipping. In states that maintain lockdown schools and remote learning, you're going to see a huge decrease in intellect. You're going to see a huge decrease in the social skills of that generation. I warned of this 2 years ago. Oxford's study agrees with my summation, as more studies I'm sure will. It's very unfortunate for literally millions of children whose parents are too poor to afford a charter school, tutors, or homeschooling in those states. It's going to increase the wealth gap, and they'll bitch more about needing to raise the minimum wage because all their kids will be able to do nothing more than flip burgers or become gaming streamers. Matt Perkins, base 10.2. Will you ever run for office again? I remember your gubernatorial race that you squashed. That wasn't a serious attempt, though. That was me making a video joking around and still got 16 votes in the Vermont gubernatorial election. Stay tuned, because I do have an idea. I'm thinking about mounting a write me in for everything sort of thing. So like, in some races, there's no good candidate, or there's a candidate running unopposed after 10 terms or something. Well, they're going to win anyway. So just write in Tarl Warwick effectively. And maybe I end up being the sheriff of some small town in Wyoming. I'd probably take the job too. So I'll be announcing that, but I'll need to develop web capabilities, get beyond my Luddite stage. That's the sort of thing where you need to meme it up. And I'm thinking about it. Still some time to plan. Of course, elections all around the world. People in Albania could make me the burgomaster of some village out in the middle of Albania. That'd be funny too. And I'd be able to go there. I think they're an EU country, so it's free travel. Dr. Doge. Let's go, Brandon. What is the cat's name? The cat's names are Yana and Farah. And they hate each other. They used to lay nose to nose and take naps and give each other baths. As soon as we moved here, because there were cats previously at this address, I think they smelled a male cat, got all territorial, and now they can't stand each other. They can't figure out who owns what. Sabersan, good day, Styx. What's your thoughts on Ukraine? I covered that briefly. There's no response to be made. Biden is clearly not interested in a response, has literally told the Russians a minor incursion won't get you any major consequences. Hey, go ahead, roll into eastern Ukraine, fight alongside some partisans that are ethnically Russian there, kill a bunch of people. That's okay. We'll condemn it. At the UN, we'll say, well, we want to vote to condemn this. And China and Russia will block it. Wow, it's almost like Biden's not interested in doing anything. Zinc Orby, there's no chat scrolling on Odyssey. Crashes on iPhone also. I was not aware of this because I do not use a smartphone. I am a desktop generation millennial. Steve Watt, hello, Styx. I loved your video about giving up a vice today. Yes, you should give up one of your vices and build one new skill, and you'll be light years ahead of your contemporaries. SNK Neo Geoman, Texas judge blocked federal mandate for the government employees. Do you believe this will be upheld since the OSHA mandate was struck down by SCOTUS? That's harder. It is still a blanket mandate. However, they're government employees. They might extend the same logic that they used to uphold the medical side of the OSHA mandate for medical workers that rely upon federal funding, federal facilities and stuff. They may extend it in a 5-4, or it'll be a 5-4 against probably. If it's taken up by SCOTUS. SCOTUS might just wash their hands of it, refuse to take the case too. Alarian Horizon, is Beijing Biden president in name only? 81 million, lol. Yes, he is the president in name. He is an asterisk because the founders would have found him not mentally competent. They wouldn't have allowed him to run in the first place. He would literally be on a funny farm if he were in the 1700s. He is illegitimate, not because of any honk, even necessarily because of his mental state. He's not fit to hold office. The Everyday Witch, do you think Speaker Trump will happen in 2022? No, I do not. That would be funny. What are your thoughts on prophets and their predictions for 2022 and beyond? Prophecy is bullshit generally. It's people who are doing guesswork, or they're effectively saying things that can have multiple meanings. Nostradamus did this. If you say, well, the red cock will rise up and kill the yellow dragon. Okay, within heraldry, Chickens and dragons are common. Colors are everywhere. Okay, you can construe that a million different ways. There's no way to be wrong. It's unfalsifiable because it's open-ended as far as when it happens, too. If there's no specific date or time range, it could be it's the year 3000. Nostradamus predicted this. Mr. Pockets, good morning from New Hampshire. Are you ever coming back to New England? Of course. Right now I am here in Enschede in the Netherlands, enjoying the beautiful Dutch weather. Yeah. It's better than Rutland. There, they've got like a foot of snow. They got a nor'easter. Stowe, Vermont, I think got 17 inches a few days ago. Yeah, I don't have to shovel snow. Everyone is sad. Mr. Wonderful, Jen, the mouth of Sauron, Psaki. Yes, Peppermint Patty Psaki. I think we should have a petition on change.org to force her to always wear a green shirt and have a picture of Peppermint Patty from Peanuts behind her. Jack McCarthy, longtime fan, Mr. Warwick. Do you have a hot take on the situation brewing on the Russia-Ukraine border? Yes, I've covered that now twice. There's nothing to be done about it, and Biden effectively has told Putin, go ahead and invade, just don't go too far. It's basically like the red lines with Assad. You think that once the Russians get in there and lock down part of eastern Ukraine, there won't be border fighting on the new border? Ukraine won't acknowledge the Russian claim, neither will the EU. Russia won't acknowledge Ukrainian sovereignty. It's a step-by-step boil the frog process to eventually take over Ukraine. They will design a de facto cause by which they need to overthrow Kiev. As they get closer to it, they can do that more easily. And Caleb Maupin will be happy because he's got, he's a Russophile and crazy. He'll like it. U.S. East Bloc imperialist traitors will love it. And it'll be the neolibs' fault because they didn't admit Ukraine to NATO or do anything like that years ago. When Crimea was first on the chopping block, they should have immediately done that. We wouldn't be having this problem. The Russians aren't nuts. They're not going to start a nuclear war invading a country that's been partnered directly with the Western Hemisphere. But we dropped the ball because Obama didn't want to do anything. Trump didn't need to do anything because he had Russia constrained because he understands Eastern diplomacy. Biden doesn't understand how to put his fucking socks on. Johnny D. Smithson, NHS budget is $350 billion. U.S. military is $750. Crazy. Yeah, I think that we should take some of the U.S. military budget and subsidize guns, ammo, and shit for the U.S. population and our allies. We should be selling guns to everyone. The demand is there. We've got the facilities. Just fucking expand them. Guns are good. We should be arming Canada and Mexico and everywhere else. Why are guns flowing north on the southern border? They should be flowing in the opposite direction. Guns, guns, guns. Cricket from Fallout 4 has it right. Ben and off. Do you notice here in the UK, Boris Johnson, to try and save his ass, has essentially called time on the pandemic and restrictions. Now a major country has done this, beginning of the end. Yeah, and also the Czech Republic won't be continuing most of its bullshit. Most U.S. states at this point, they don't have any restrictions really, except on sometimes public transit. So we're moving in the right direction slowly. Except Australia, Austria, Canada, France, and Germany. They're the new axis of evil, I guess. Nick Ray, howdy, Styx. Been understanding more and more how the Electoral College works, but people have confused me with one statement. You can't win Ohio and lose Florida and vice versa. Why is that? Clank. Demographics. Demographics. They're similar enough in proportion, or at least historically, to be considered bellwethers. Ohio is now fairly red, though. I would no longer use Ohio as an example, or Iowa. That's another one. Florida's an all right bellwether. Virginia and North Carolina, arguably as well. They used to be more red. Now they're balanced. You got states shifting in the other direction too. Florida as well. New Hampshire is growing more red. Maine, like the New England states. You saw in New Jersey, the Democrats eked out a low single-digit win in the gubernatorial race there, despite Christie having been unpopular when he left. Not a position of strength that I would want to be in. Sebastian Monroe. Had a discussion on Poll about ending the drug war because I suggested legalizing weed. Got called a hippie, but it's better than opioid addiction. Yeah, I think we should legalize weed, or rather decriminalize it. There shouldn't be any laws about it. It's an innocuous species. Greven Share, take my money in celebration of the year of the Chud. Yes, in the decade of the clankers. Startorius, keep on clanking, Sticks. I've been seeing more Trump flags around the neighborhood recently, upstate New York, so maybe there's hope for New York after all. No, because New York City counterbalances it. Unless it has a massive swing because of the Dems pro-crime policies. Dynacide13, bringing in the day with Death Wish Coffee, plowing snow and exposing glowies of Fedbook. Clank, stop using Fedbook. Just get rid of your account unless you have to administrate a fan page or something. Then just let it be dormant. Keep moving. Will the legacy news ever come clean on Big Guy? Nope. No, they'll never fully come clean. They'll still defend him to last on that, even if they throw him under the bus on everything else. Stefan Helsing, thoughts on surprise virus in 22 or 24? I think that would be a little bit too obvious. I think that they'll just keep fear-mongering about COVID as long as they can. Then they'll switch to abortion maybe as a main issue. Elmar001, a belated Happy New Year, Styx, from a stinking hot Melbourne, Australia. Looking forward to another epic year of Styxhexenhammer videos. Yes. Opinionated Junkie, Sinema voted yes on voting rights. Be careful. Yeah, but in a doomed effort. If there's still a filibuster, you need a bunch of Republicans to vote yes, and they all held the line, including people like Romney. Joe Biden's dentures. I'm having steak and eggs for breakfast as the gods intended. AOC weeps at my beefy repast. Clank to all. I hope that steak is medium rare. Opinionated Junkie. Filler Buster was a red herring. Voting bill wasn't. No, it's not a red herring because it would have gone a lot further than the voting bill. And there's already, Manchin had already voted before to suspend it for the infrastructure bill negotiations, I believe. Silver Kestrel, have you been keeping up with the redistricting? If so, any thoughts on any of the states? Redistricting is meaningless. Gerrymandering is not as big an issue as people pretend because you have an equal amount of Dem and Republican gerrymandering. So you're trading off positions while pissing off the whole population. At the end of the day, though, it doesn't do a huge amount because everyone does it. Look at Chicago. They talk about, oh, the Republicans gerrymandered central Pennsylvania. Okay, what about the Chicago area? It's the same fucking shit because they want to put forth unqualified individuals to rig into their positions. They don't want to have to debate the point, so they just redistrict it so they automatically win. Sebastian Monroe, I know you don't care for sports, but it's funny watching the Packers lose after Aaron Rodgers said Biden got 81 million votes. Honk, honk. They deserved it. All sports teams deserve to be fired. Get rid of the bread and circus bullshit and get back to doing something positive. Turn those sports stadiums into greenhouses or something. Make biodomes. Ever seen the biodome up in Montreal, Canada? It's pretty cool. You know, instead of teaching kids how to throw a ball at each other and pat each other's asses like some sort of stupendously berserk Greek ritual, why don't we grow some trees or something? Speaking of which, happy trees. Hey, Styx, how do you feel about the amendment to the tax code that legally obligates peer-to-peer payment platforms to report anyone that receives 600 plus within the year to the IRS? Yes, but that's for, I believe, individual transactions. So if you don't want PayPal to report it to the IRS, you send $599. And then you send the other dollar separately or something. Yeah, I believe that is how it works. This is bureaucracy in action. This is their logic. Robot Trucker, you should debate Chris Wyatt on Ted Cruz. There's no debate to be had on Ted Cruz. Everyone can see him for the goofball he is. He's completely self-serving. He's like the Joe Manchin of the Republican Party. I mean, he can be a useful idiot. It's not like everything he does is terrible. It's just that it's all for him. And he does want to run for the presidency again. Trust me, Ted Cruz absolutely will run if he sees any possibility that he can win. If Trump sits it out, he will be one of the candidates, I think, next time around. Sharks, oh plenty, clanking, quite frankly. Yes, I will be on, quite frankly, I think next month, actually. The Great Awakening, law enforcement mandate. Will it pass on the state level? I don't know. That one's a little bit more mysterious. I'll consult my tarot cards later, if I had any. Joshua San Filippo. Senators were originally supposed to be chosen by state legislatures. Yes, senator's job is not to represent me, but rather represent my state's government. My House rep's job is to represent me. True. And we've gotten further away from that, which is unfortunate. End popular vote for senators. Noel Sparza, thoughts on New Mexico turning red? Midterms in 2024? Possible, but not likely. The Republicans would be better off chipping away at Maine and New Hampshire, which lean blue, but they're going in the other direction. Hold Texas and Florida. Focus heavily on Pennsylvania and Michigan. Those would be big ones. Jobs, outsizedly important in the Great Lakes area of the country. Hell of a lot of people up there are fucked. Small businesses and farmers and shit. Boxcar Hobo, have you seen Brussels today? No, I have not. I'll take a look later. I'm also going to play SimCity. I got SimCity 3000 Unlimited to work without any lag. I'm very happy for this evening. Nick Ray, you have praised Rand Paul quite a lot and say he's your #1 ideal candidate for 24. Any problems you have with him? Keep up the good work. No, I can't really think of any problems other than he does the Jesus thing. But unlike T-evangelicals, he actually means it. Well, I can respect his religiosity, goofy as though I think it may be in the mix of public policy, but at least he's not just saying Jesus to get more polling like Bush did or like the Cheneys. Roybos, what would you say is the funniest Biden sundown syndrome moment? Probably at his latest presser when he indicated it was okay if Russia invaded Ukraine as long as they only invade a little. That takes the cake for me. F YouTube 10.5, are we in a bear market and is it the cause of Ukraine? It's bearish, except with crypto. I know it's falling, but that's just an opportunity, in my disclaimer, personal opinion, to buy in. Yeah, I'm bearish on the world economy at the moment because everything's been pumped so full of funny money, the bubble might explode. They might pump it a little bit too much, and then we end up in another great recession, or worse. Wouldn't that be great for Biden's polling? Fern Doggy Dog, do you think China will move on Taiwan if Russia takes part of Ukraine? No, and I made a video explaining why earlier this year. Last year. Taiwan's an island. So you need a Navy and Air Force to subsume it. You can't just march in by land. Russia has a land border with Ukraine. Russia has local allies. Most of the local countries would be on Taiwan's side. Japan has a defense treaty. That'd be a big problem. Fighting the Japanese would not be something that the Chinese would be wise to do. Also, you don't have the ethnic bloc thing. Part of the thing is in Ukraine, there are groups that are technically ethnically Russian that were put there as dekulakization. They scattered the Ukrainians to the wind because they wanted to destroy national origins and replace them with Soviet ideals. So you've got Russians in Crimea and parts of eastern Ukraine. That's being used as an argument by Russia. China's not making that argument. Everyone in Taiwan is part of that same Han diaspora. What they're saying in Taiwan is, no, we're the legitimate government of all of China too. Russia doesn't make that argument. Totally apples to oranges. Also, China's Navy sucks ass. Russia's land forces are really good. Russia has a huge advantage in a fight against Ukraine unless other parties get involved. China would get obliterated. The amount of blood that they would lose trying to invade Taiwan would make it not worth invading Taiwan. They prefer to mention it once in a while to keep the West on its toes. Adonis Adams, what inspired you to start your occult series? I'm interested in the occult, cryptids, and the superstitions of the world. J-Dog, what do you think about Dr. Oz running for Senate? I don't know much about him, and I don't really care. I think it's one of those things where I'm not even going to bother looking into it. It doesn't sound interesting. Is he a TV doctor? I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I don't give a shit. Mike L2535, your beautiful hair is giving me my weekly bohar. Thanks, babe. Doctora420, by the way, on Twitch. Everyone votes with their wallet. Yeah, that's the primary motivator. It starts at home. That's why people near the border are changing to GOP so quickly. Half of the growth of the GOPs in border counties. Why? Because the border's porous and they're tired of dealing with the crime and the huddled masses and the poverty. Those sports teams. Well, screw you, Styx. We hate you too. Metalhead Martyr. There have been many proposals to break up Dem states like California and New York. Is this advantageous? If so, how could this be accomplished? No, it's not, because those new states eventually would have the same problem, and then you've got a precedent for them splitting further. Eventually, it would just be counties. Now, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense at all. It makes more sense to try have every side of the ideology debate as normal and come to a conclusion. Use the system that's in place and reform that instead of trying to rip it apart. We're going to go to Odyssey really quickly. Ulthane, black pillars are gay. Some of them are. Some of them are straight, but they're all demoralized. Waltarm, you've given up alcohol. Thoughts on giving up caffeine? Why the hell would I want to do that? Some studies show that this is actually vasoprotective. That is either due to the caffeine stimulating exercise, for vascular purposes, not muscular ones, or possibly the essential oils in coffee that it's actually good for you. It prevents heart attacks and strokes. From my cold, dead hands. Scruffy0105. Hey, Styx, can the bottoms-up approach work in other countries? Yes, assuming that local authorities have something to do with the elections. In most countries, especially policing, is mostly local. It's jurisdiction. It's not run by a central authority. Here in the Netherlands, it's like that. Most of the provinces in the Netherlands have said they're no longer going to enforce any of the corona stuff. Well, they control the police. Unless you're going to send the military and there's going to be a real problem with enforcement. You'd have one hell of a justification to do that. Mr. Wright has a picture there. There's a picture of Trump saying, I endorse him, and I am sitting next to him with my hands crossed. Average Dog, do you think mainstream companies, lefties, and independents will end up joining Truth Social, Rumble, Odyssey, and Getter? Or do you think that the free speech political branding will forever brand it the enemy platform? I did cover this a week ago. What I think is that if enough of the people that provoke the leftoid response move to other sites and primarily use them, the leftoids eventually have to follow because their entire existence relies upon the constant stream of antagonism to be offended at. They can't exist without being offended. It's part of their personality disorder. Therefore, they will follow eventually. It's already beginning to happen. You see, the legacy media already has sleeper accounts on all these platforms just to look and find shit to complain about. And when they can't beat them, they'll join them, just like they did with social media in the wake of the .com collapse. Punmeister, one gold lining to the Honkler admin, normies and NIMBY liberals breaking the TDS. That means good news for Trump's potential second term. Yes, I agree. Ulfane, eternal struggle is the price of liberty. Thomas Jefferson. Authoritarianism is always trying to subvert freedom. Yes, you can never get complacent. The war is never over. War never changes. Neither does propaganda. Back to YouTube with John Hoyle. Where will the U.S. fight the next meaningless war or conflict? I'll be making a video tomorrow warning people Biden might try to start a war to save his approval because he's lost on domestic and economic and regular diplomatic issues. Well, you know, if you have another Hong Kong totally coincidental terrorist attack or something, maybe we invade Lebanon. Maybe we invade Cyprus. Maybe our troops have to march into Kenya. Maybe we invade Colombia. It depends on who the feds decide is responsible with their planted evidence. Snozzlehead92, check out the recently released documentary film Battleground Melbourne on YouTube, which exposes the draconian lockdowns and police brutality in Australia. Yeah, it's interesting how all these nations that were talked about by liberals 10 years ago in the US as being, well, their police are so much nicer and they have lower crime and our police should be more accountable like theirs. I don't think you want them to be like those police now, do you? Oh, wait, you do, because you want concentration camps for the unvaxxed in New York as well. Stefan Helsing, thoughts on Michelle Obama running in 24? She will not. She's already confirmed this. She said before multiple times when queried, and she doesn't bandy around and beat around the bush. She's more explicit and direct about it. She's like, no, I have no intention of running. I'm not interested. She's not interested in politics. By the way, that's one to her. She's the intelligent Obama. The fuck would you want to be back in the White House? Almost feel very slightly sorry for Obama because most of the criticism during his administration was for horseshit that was out of his control. The legacy media didn't crucify him for the AP spying scandal or Fast and Furious. They buried those for him. They were too busy complaining, well, there were terrorist attacks in this country we invaded under Bush. No, you do realize that there are things we could actually pressure him on to change, but they weren't interested in it. Byron8899. As an Asian myself, Asians need to be very concerned about woke mob instead of fear-mongering from the media claiming Asian hate crimes on the rise. Yes, especially when you realize that those hate crimes against Asians are disproportionately from people of certain leftoid persuasions that are motivated by racism that certainly has very little in common with alt-right or the KKK. I think there are other groups that use a fist instead of a Bellamy salute that are more representative of that sample. We're not allowed to speak about it more directly on a YouTube stream without running the risk of being demonetized, and then all of your super chats are for naught. Josh Eternal, will rock music ever make a legit comeback? You know, it already has. The retro scene is huge. Especially, there's a lot of like stuff. If you listen to the radio, even the hip hop pop, like top 40 stuff, it's got a little bit of a cabaret vibe to it now. I think Adele and Lana Del Rey and Billie Eilish and a few others have sort of pioneered this over time. It sounds almost like a cabaret throwback, like something that'd be Art Deco behind you or something. Like something from the early 20th century. It's more listenable than it has been. I think the 2010s were the ultimate low point of music. Rock is coming back, though. One thing is it's no longer profitable, though, because garage bands are so profuse. Which I don't have a problem with that. You know, it's all an underground scene, which means it's more real. Brando Commando, thoughts on the channel Red Eagle Politics? I'm familiar with them, but I haven't watched a lot of the material, so I can't formulate a direct opinion. Dr. Zeodin, thoughts on a statewide electoral college that feeds into a national electoral college? Does that nullify the 10th Amendment? It depends on how you formulate it. Razor Fist has brought up the idea of having state elections function with an electoral college. You could do that for certain positions. I think for House members, I would nix that idea. They're meant to be elected directly and democratically. Having an electoral college, though, for gubernatorial positions and mayoral slots would be all right. And certainly returning to the idea of the Senate in the U.S. sense, in the federal level, being elected by state legislatures, I think we should do that. We should de-democratize the Senate. And then we should enshrine the filibuster in a constitutional amendment. SDP 123321. Thoughts on the first generation being less progressive than the previous in 100 years? Does the pendulum start to swing back, or is it an anomaly? Anomaly. There's no pendulum swinging, because the redefinition of what is liberal, conservative, progressive, or regressive changes over time in various directions. Again, revolutions and counter-revolutions. I would say, yeah, it is nice that Gen Z is less cucked than the millennials. And Generation Alpha, I mean, considering the situation we're in, might even eclipse them. I think that would be a good thing. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of a more pro-liberty sentiment, too. Millennials are the most likely to support the book-burning bullshit. And boomers. Gen Xers, they're like, oh, man, I smoke so much weed, I don't even understand what's going on. Ryan Colaras, MS Dobbs case is before the Supreme Court, 15-week abortion ban. Thoughts on the decision in June? Uphold the law, strike it down, overturn Roe. I personally believe it would be bad, and I've stated this before, for the Republicans if Roe gets overturned, because it'll become a big issue on which the Democrats can at least energize their base. Now, keep this in mind. I'm in the minority on this issue. I am pro-choice. Technically, I'm in the minority. The majority of Americans want further curbs on abortion rights. If the Republicans want to take that up as an issue, they do so at their own hazard. They're winning right now on educational transparency, anti-soft on crime, and Biden is nuts. They're running, and the Democrats are wasting their time with witch hunts instead of actually doing anything. They're winning right now. There's a reason they went from a 9-point deficit to a 5-point advantage in voter registration. If they pivot to a social issue that doesn't involve economics or foreign policy, it may get very messy before the midterms. I would encourage them, if Roe is overturned, acknowledge it, smile to your religious constituents, and drop it. Don't let the Democrats inject it as an issue, because it will become divisive, and some independents will lean towards the Democrats. It could erase your midterm advantage. Stick to the economy mainly. The inflation won't go away by June. The shortages will probably still be there. There will still be lockdownerism, and they'll still be trying to teach communism in public schools. Those are winning issues for the GOP. And by the way, don't swallow the bait if Biden tries to warmonger. The Republicans would love to start another war for their Halliburton buddies. Just for a little while, you're going to have to delay that. You're going to have to wait to get your snuff footage of little children being killed by drone strikes. I know this is really terrible for the Cheneys of the world and the Bushes and so forth, but you're going to have to hold that line. Danny Skeff, your thoughts on Russell Brand and his YouTube channel, Genuine Celeb Gone Rogue? I have no clue, but he's always been a goofball anyway, so we'll see. 8 Veenstra, will the old pre-COVID normal ever come back? Oh, it already has in some places. In some places in the U.S., like in Florida, yep, things are already normal. And people are ridiculed for wearing magical talismans to ward off miasmas, as it should be. F YouTube 10.5. Styx, call the doctor. I've got a case of a love bipolar. I'm stuck on this roller coaster and I can't get off this ride. Anyway, populist wave 2022, boys. Yeah, there'll be a populist wave. It's just a matter of how big the wave is. Will it wash away all the flotsam and jetsam and all of the dead, dying seaweed and fish bones, or will it just partially clean things up and make them a little bit more palatable? Let's hope it's the former. JDF, you're awesome. You've become part of my morning routine. Keep on keeping on. US. Yes, I will always continue this work until I'm in the grave suffering. I might have gotten through the super chats. Oh, no, not quite. Adam Cram, it's okay to be white and proud. War, German, Irish. Yes, it is okay to be white. Somehow this has become construed as a racist message by some people. Very, very bizarre. Mr. Twisted Frenzy, in relation to voting systems, do you understand what proportional representation is? I've had people try explaining it to me in the past, but still can't wrap my head around it. Normally, that's invoked by leftoids to convince you that you should vote for someone based on the color of their skin or the genitals they have. Well, we don't have proportional legislation for black people. So if you don't vote for this black candidate, irrespective of what their ideas are, you're a racist. You should feel sorry for being a bigot, and you should apologize and take the knee. That's basically the sum and substance of the argument. I hate to say it, but it's that simplistic. Spliffy420 on Twitch saying Styx is a boogaloo. Here's the funny part. I started doing the Hawaiian shirt thing many, many months before that became a meme. And I thought it was hysterical when that became the ADL and groups like that are like, oh, these men are wearing Hawaiian shirts and shades. And clearly that makes them racists. I predate that. Matty Poo. Oh, wow. Styx is on Twitch. Yes, 4,000 people follow it. Make sure to tell all of your friends. I'm probably going to be doing at some point in the future, I'm going to have a second screen, and I'm going to be doing some gaming streams. I got SimCity, but the thing is, it's full screen on here, and if I put it into windowed mode, this is a 4K screen, so it's really, really small, and I'm not going to play it like that. Unless I can figure out how to manually readjust it so that the window is better than, like, I think the 640 or something that it would be wide, which is tiny. I'll have to get a second smaller screen to play the game on, I think, in order to live stream and do that. I used to do Fallout streaming, but I got scared because the copyright on the music in it. YouTube has become anally retentive about copyrighted music again. Tasty1 2000, you wouldn't be suffering if you're dead. Shaking my head. Well, you know that your brain remains semi-aware of the decomposition of your body at first, and because the passage of time will slow to a crawl, you will probably feel the maggots writhing around on you. It's called a shubha. It is a Buddhist tradition. Meditate upon death and decomposition and understand it is coming, and you'll be less afraid of it. It's a literal meditation. You have to sort of, in meditation, like you can pass your awareness over parts of the body and like feel them more intently, focus on them. Now focus on the feeling of crepitation, your cold heart freezing in your chest, the blood chugging to a stop and gelatinizing in your veins. Your skin grows taut and dehydrated and you're bloating. And you'll feel it too. Isn't that wonderful? It should be, because it's going to happen anyway, so get used to it. That's what I'm talking about. Get some morbidity going. I didn't write morbid stories for nothing. Buy a copy on Amazon now. Wolf Better. What do you think of computing forever? Is he demoralized, a grifter, or does he have some point? His last video screamed demoralization. I think he's somewhat demoralized, but I like the dude. He should never have been banned off mainline tech, but he's got a pretty good sized audience in places like BitChute and I think Rumble. He's not doing bad. He's sort of like, I think one risk that you run when you do mainly news and social political commentary is to get demoralized. I don't, because I take a step back. I'm just analyzing it. I don't even give a fuck about half the stuff that happens in the news. I care about giving people proper information. I care about analyzing things accurately. That's my care, not about how it affects me. I've got mine. I do the work that I need to do. I'm assured in myself. I believe in myself, so I don't worry too much about it. But there are some people that get emotionally invested in it, and it demoralizes them. They should take up meditation. Really, they realize the world is bigger than the tweet that you just saw that you're making a video about, and most people probably aren't that stupid. Bert, thoughts on Ukraine standoff? Minsk 2. I think this is the 4th time I've addressed it. Yeah, on Ukraine, there's no solution. Russia will probably invade. Biden's made it clear he doesn't care as long as they don't go too far to the west. And there will be probably quite a bit of fighting over it. I think we should airdrop a bunch more weapons for the Ukrainians because we can make money off of it. And we're not allies of Russia. It's not an act of war. We're just giving people guns. I think the Ukrainians are crazy for not ushering in a full martial society and handing out firearms to every citizen that's capable of fighting. Russia would be a little bit more reluctant, I think, if there were a gun behind every blade of grass, or in the Ukraine, every fucking cabbage patch. Little bit more reluctant. The world should begin to look more like a Second Amendment land. It'd be so great. Robot Trucker, Victoria 3 is coming out. City Skylines is good. Oh, they're making a Victoria 3. Let's hope that they can fix the economics system in their next attempt. That's all I can say, because even in the cleaned up version with all the add-ons, the economy, it's too easy to collapse your own economy and not know what the fuck you're doing wrong. Sometimes or you get endless waves of militants. People aren't taxed a lot. They don't have any shortages. You're not at war. Your consciousness and you don't have war exhaustion. You don't even have high militancy. And all of a sudden you've got hundreds of thousands of anarchist rebels. And then you got nationalists and communists and Jacobins and all these other groups. It becomes impossible under certain situations to govern. It's literally impossible at times. If you make too many mistakes early on, especially, your country will collapse. You'll be wiped off the face of the earth. You'll have no military. The military forces will just defect for no reason. Christopher, why do people still support Trump? He's attacking the better candidate, DeSantis, because of the vax. Trump would have been a max candidate worse than Biden. False. There is no evidence that he is attacking DeSantis. That anonymous source article that you are probably partially referring to is spurious. I've seen no confirmation from either Trump or DeSantis' people, but I have seen questions about it from Trump allies, people who know him personally. As far as the vax status comments, that applies broadly to many, many politicians, not necessarily just DeSantis. He didn't use DeSantis' name, so let's not get ahead of ourselves in assuming there's some sort of spat. I think it's a psyop. It's a psyop to try to keep populists attacking each other. So you get the Trump populists and you got the DeSantis quasi-populists. Right now, they're basically congealed into a massive block that's beginning to take over local and state control in the GOP. Democrats are terrified. So what do? Oh, Trump is at it again. An anonymous source that called us from the bathroom says that he hates DeSantis. Yeah, okay. Frank Drebin, any plans for your garden? Well, I'll have gardens on 2 continents before too long, I think. But right now, it's the middle of winter. Not a whole lot other than ivy out there growing at the moment. Ivy seems to be indestructible. Jimmy B, your thoughts on this theory? Biden gets the boot near midterms. Kamala takes office, appoints Hillary as VP. Then all Kamala needs to do is not suicide herself, and the sea-cow gets a portrait among presidents. Possible, but I mean, Hillary would never be chosen for that role. Kamala wouldn't want to be Vince Fostered. I say that very, very seriously. No reasonable person would want Hillary Clinton in the line of succession if they want to survive the term, because she would have them killed. She is a murderess. She is the kind of person that hires assassins. Vince Foster did not shoot himself multiple times in the back. Epstein did not kill himself. I know that may be low-hanging fruit, and we can't show that Hillary was directly involved. The laundry list of people who went to Epstein Island is in the thousands. It's possible. That's not the only pair of times that sort of thing has happened. Look, Google Clinton crime sometime, or look it up on Bing. Google probably redirects you to Snopes at this point. Kim D, did you see the riot in Belgium? Do you think more European countries will start pushing back on lockdownerism? They already are. Czech Republic, England. I know that's not Europe, but and in other parts. Yeah, I mean, here things have mostly opened back up. There's still a partial curfew, I think, and on public transport you have to mask. Not that I use public transport, so I don't give a shit. But it's going the way of the dinosaur because people are less afraid now. Alucard 424, we're evacuating our U.S. embassy in Ukraine. Yeah, that's a pretty good indicator that shit's going to go down. Although sometimes they just do that preemptively anyway because they think it might. Shinobi Kenobi, thoughts on Trump DeSantis 24? That'd be a good matchup. I don't know that Trump would want someone with that kind of personality as running mate, though. Problem is that Trump wants the limelight. The VP shut up and go to some meetings behind closed doors. DeSantis, I think, has... I think in mind the possibility of an eventual presidential run. If that's the case, he would be ill-advised to be a VP under Trump because it would hamper him potentially. It would hold him back. It'd be better for him to be governor and continue reigning over Florida in its various successes, taking even more credit during a Trump presidency, be bosom buddies with him, cross-trained and shit, and then run in 2028 or whatever. That's what I would do if I were DeSantis. He's only in his 40s anyway. Dr. Zeodin, Styx, there was like a 14-year-old girl you shouted out years ago. She did the Burqa Girl and hosted Count Dankula. She used a platform. Is she on New Tech? I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the username. The one that anti-Islamic is a loaded term, but anti like Islamofascism, and had been, I think, a Muslim actually before. I can't remember the name. So I don't know if she's on New Tech. I think that video might be buried thousands of videos back in my likes. I could check, but I'm not sure exactly who it was. I remember the golden period of anti-religion on YouTube, back when liberals actually criticized Islam and didn't think that that was being racist, because for some reason they think religion and race are the same thing now. So I'm not sure. Also, I think she was actually in college, come to think of it. I might be thinking of a different person. Josiah Magnuson, did you hear about Richard Hart raising $1 billion for freedom of movement? It was part of the PulseX sacrifice, a crypto launching with Pulse Chain. No, I haven't. I'm behind on my crypto learning. How very sad. Oh, people are talking about Soph. Yes, I think she's on Altec. I don't know. I think on BitChute. Although no, wait. Here's what happened. Now she's doing stuff with that site that Gavin Newsom does, and it's behind a paywall mainly, I think. So there's that. Thus showing you should not relegate your stuff to being behind a paywall. You should strike while the iron is hot. It's a different strategy as opposed to branching out more widely and making more content. Donald Trump is going to hell for the rape and murder of Mara. Who's that? No troll. He did it. I don't think that Trump ever murdered anybody. I'm skeptical of your claim. Bulls Dip on Twitch. Do the trolls here ever become self-aware? Yeah, speaking as a long-term troll who helped destroy ICQ chat, longtime troll when I was still like 11 or 12 of Alamac, back when that still existed, back in the late 90s, I can say trolls do it for the lulz. So you're very self-aware as a troll. It's just, you're looking for a response, sort of like prank calls and shit like that. Yes, Gavin McInnes, not Newsom. Yeah, he, I don't know. I haven't looked at his site in a while. I don't know. Fuentes has a hosting site too, and I think there's the one Alex Jones is on, although that might be the same one as Gavin. I don't know. I've lost track. There's so many alternatives now, and they're all vying for, talent and stuff. To the point where they'll message you and offer you stuff to make exclusive content. I chose to make it cross-platform. Yeah. NethBT, you're a controlled opposition. Yes, I also have people that think that I am a cross-dresser based on a now almost 10-year-old post on 4chan. Skycloud Rain, I just arrived. You're not leaving yet, are you? Not quite. We're running up on the hour. In a few minutes, though, I'll ask people not to send any more super chats, though, so I can play it out, as Bill O'Reilly would say. Not a banned account. Will Washington go forward with interring COVID sick people? Well, they'll definitely try. Might run up against the Fourth Amendment or other amendments. Of course, people always have the right to move out of shitty states. It's like if I were in New York right now, at any point, not just New York City, I'd move out. Genuinely, if I had the capability at all, I would leave. And that's why a million other people have already done it over the last few years. The amount of people who have left places like New York, New Jersey, California is very large. Over 1 million people have fled California in the last couple of years because of the economic situation there being so bad. And by the way, it's not people who don't pay no taxes that are moving. It's people with mobility, middle and upper middle classers and stuff. They're like, hey, I'm living in San Francisco. I'm counted as middle class making $120K. I'm living in a micro flat with 5 other people that's considered an upper middle class apartment in my programming job. But now there's this other programming firm in Texas. I take a small pay cut, but I pay half as much for everything, less than half as much for a house. I'll be living in a goddamn McMansion. I can have 5 bedrooms for the same cost that I'm renting a flat with multiple other people in San Francisco. Why don't I move to Texas? I've got the capability to do so. You get some savings. I would do that. Move out of the shitty city. Go see Texas or Florida or something. Or New Hampshire at this point. New Hampshire, the Free State Movement is doing a good idea. Eddie Grizz, next MREs vid. I've already got some MREs lined up right now. Mushroom stew from Sweden and pate and crackers from Czech Republic, I think. And a few other fucking things there as well. I will be doing that at some point, but I got to be hungry and I got to have some time and energy to do that. Today, I've just got leftovers. I made a pea curry the other day. By the way, delicious. I make really good curried foods. I know seasonings. I'm very good at it. I'll be eating that, the leftovers for dinner. I'm going to try making curried sweet potato, actually. You take it and you use melted butter and toss it on. You bake it with the herbs on it. Very simple. The prep takes maybe 5 minutes. Not a bad account. If you do cross-dress, could you? That'd be hot. No, I don't. One time I was in full makeup on a video about Hillary Clinton years ago, and people assumed that I was cross-dressing. But I was gothed up. I looked cool. I looked like I was playing a vampire in a sub-B movie or something. Denine S. It wouldn't be the first time Dems put people in camps. Yes, keep in mind, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the standard bearer and icon of the whole Democratic Party, self-professed socialist, totally coincidental, put people into concentration camps based on their ethnicity for an extended period of time. But they're not really called concentration camps. In the US, they were internment camps. Totally different. Yeah, you still get shot if you try to leave. You're still commanded to work and stuff, but it's different. That's because reasons. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was Asiophobic, by the way. John Hoyle, would you share the brand of leather that you and Razorfist wear? Looks very well made. This is buffalo leather, and I can't actually remember the company. Razorfist himself recommended it to me after I DM'd him, actually. But the liner on the inside, the zipper got damaged, so I just said fuck it and took it out because I didn't want the liner anyway, and that had the branding logo on it, so I'd have to check. Username NFJRHHFHSJW. How is it possible for the U.S. government to push lockdownerism in light of the UK's ending all restrictions and the success of Florida? The U.S. government isn't really now doing that. It's state level, like it always has been. Biden is withdrawing support for much of it now, and so is Fauci. Tentatively. They're doing it slowly so as to boil the frog so the liberals don't notice that they're doing a 180, by the way. It will go the way of the dinosaur, just like all other moral panics and superstitious, paranoid, knee-jerk reactions tend to. What I worry about is lingering damage, both economic and social. That's what I worry about. By the way, please don't send any more super chats. I'm going to try to get through the last ones here. Fire down below. What do you think the future holds for Dogecoin? It will, disclaimer, this is not official investing advice. It will continue to crater as all cryptos are now, and then it will hit the bottom, stabilize, and then grow. And it'll go logarithmic for a while longer. People will be wondering years from now, people are like, oh, Bitcoin fell to $500,000 a piece today. It's dead this time. I really do believe that. Sky Cloud Rain. Now that the mandate is dead, how can employers still try to enforce it? Isn't HIPAA a thing? Doesn't that violate the Fourth Amendment, right to privacy? Potentially, but they have to send a case to a federal court first to determine that. They can't just say in a vacuum, hey, you're not allowed to have a mandate because HIPAA. You got to litigate that. So you have to have a proper plaintiff, you have to have a defendant, you have to bring it before a court and then escalate it to the federal level. It'll take some time. It'll take months. The courts are very, very slow. El Presidente. So I convinced my wife to vote Trump and trying to get her to be more politically active. How would you describe populism to someone like that? Populism is the radical notion that if you are paying for a government, that you should get something out of it. That the government primarily exists to represent you. It represents the interests of the average American corpus, both individually when possible and as a collective when able. That's the only purpose of a government. The purpose of it, you have a military to prevent abuse from without. You have courts and police to prevent abuse from within. You have regulations to prevent abuse. Anything beyond that is superfluous. I say that as a libertarian, not so much the populistic end. And when governments are sending money to foreign nations when they've racked up trillions in debt, that's not something that needs to be done. When you already have economic problems, you should not have an open border, especially when you can pay pennies on the dollar to secure the border instead of paying for people once they're already in your country. Not a banned account. When will the federal circuit courts move past injunctions and finally rule on the vaccination mandates? And will federal Congress pass laws on it? No, they won't pass any laws at the federal level. They don't have the votes. They can't get it through the Senate. And at this point, the public will is no longer, I think, behind it either. So that'd be a problem. Zach the Celtic Sky. By the way, no more super chats, please. I'm trying to get through these. Zach the Celtic Sky. I was hanging out with one of my best friends the other day, and when we turned on the TV to watch Netflix together, Biden came on the TV and couldn't wait to turn it off. He can't stand him either. We're both center left. Yeah, the center left is completely abandoned Joe, which is great. Mr. Wonderful, bare-chested Styx in a Brando jacket is best Styx. I like the Vietnam vintage shirt that I've got back in Rutland. The tan one. The one where I was wearing a helmet, and it's been made into a meme at this point, I think. F YouTube 10.5. When I study history, I realize every 80 years or so, there's a major historical event, especially with U.S. history. 1770s, 1860s, 1940s, now 2020s. Thoughts? And what do you think the next half decade holds? Now, the future is not ours to see, other than I think that the next half decade will end better than it began, as far as the 2020s. But yeah, things do go in cycles. You know, things boil over after a while. Bob Hopkins, I moved from Maine to Florida 2 months ago, and I've never been happier. I imagine that the weather is more pleasant, depending on where you are in Florida and if you are can afford an AC. When I was there, there was no air conditioner. It was a very low rent experience. Not the most pleasant. Skycloud Rain, IIR, wasn't Roe v. Wade decided on a privacy issue, technicality on the Fourth Amendment, not the merits of if it's murder or not. I used to be for abortion, but adopted Ron Paul's view. I'm still pro-choice. I see it as a privacy issue. I agree with the court's summation on that. I don't think that the government should get anywhere near people's medical decision-making. The problem is if you overturn this, say, yeah, the government can regulate this procedure that's been done anyway for the last half century and was legal in numerous states before Roe. Just to be clear, it wasn't illegal on the federal level. It was a state issue. I think it's problematic. You'd be telling the states, well, you make other decisions for people too. Maybe vax mandates are absolutely A-okay. Go ahead, jam people full of chemicals. You can mandate they take their vitamins. You can take kids away from their house because they had the wrong diet. You can tax people because they weigh too little, too much, or eat the wrong thing. I think it's a slippery slope, unfortunately. Sebastian Monroe, crypto is crashing. Meanwhile, the stock market. Yes, the stock market having some problems too. Not a banned account. Would you suggest stocking platinum or palladium? I'm a silver man myself. I like silver because its value is denominated lower, so you can actually carry it for day-to-day use even if its value were to go up 10, 20 times. Gold, platinum, and stuff, good luck. Nobody's going to trade with it. They're going to use silver as the medium of exchange if you really come to that. They're not going to use gold, not for anything but huge purchases. But silver would be worth more. You could use a few ounces of silver for the same big purchase. Johnny D. Smithson, have you watched Armored Skeptics History is a Lie? No, I have not. Joe Biden's dentures, next new to YouTube channel, Ashley's Thoughts, worth a sub. Not a banned account. When will Trump be held responsible for vaccine injuries? He and Dr. Fauci are responsible for rushing past long-term testing, and he still promotes them. I don't care if he promotes them. He's not telling anyone that he's mandating them. He's also a citizen at this point. I have no problem. I'm pro-vax. If someone wants to get it, go ahead and get it. Go ahead and promote it all the day. But it shouldn't be required. Not in a business situation or anything else. Chikafujiwara, let's go, Brandon. Absolutely. Common Vessi, just buying you an energy drink. Be well. That's actually several energy drinks. And then we've got a few on Odyssey. No more super chats, please, because I've got to get to SimCity and eating at some point. Punmeister, seeing the Arizona Dems censoring Sinema, a self-serving individual, shows me they learned nothing from 2016 or 2021 or from future elections. Midterms are going to be wild. Absolutely agreed. Herman Arminius, what do Joe Biden's diapers have in common with a broken plastic bag? Neither can find a tight fit. Olthane, leftoids who ramble about minority rule when talking about the Senate are basically saying, why won't you let me abuse you? Yeah, that's what it boils down to. It's sour grapes. And the last one, Dr. Zaodin on YouTube. Last one, bud. I started calling the masks cloth crosses and told them I will pray the miasma away. If Warren going against the military mandate, it seems to be working because I'm now hearing it from soldiers outside my unit. Yeah, well, I mean, it is. N95s offer protection, but I mean, you've got mounting studies and YouTube, don't ban me, bro. This comes from the CDC and the WHO, so I'm comporting the lamestream medical apparatus. They're saying that the amount of protection granted by the mask that many people wear, the paper and cloth, is insufficient for Omicron. Well, I mean, this is coming from the whole medical complex. Fauci's mentioned it now. This is the gold standard of YouTube and Twitter. And N95s, Biden has freed up 400 million of them. The problem is they're single use. There's a lot. There's hundreds of millions of Americans. How long will 400 million masks last? A week? 2 weeks if they're improperly worn? Well, I mean, I don't think that that's it. He's just trying to take credit for the inevitable drop in Omicron cases as they plateau anyway. Yeah, no, Susan's not going to have a problem with that because it comes from the WHO. As long as it comes from the WHO and local health authorities, you're fine. So you couldn't say that a couple of weeks ago, but now you can. It's bullshit. Dan Cooper, Styx hatred of sports is pure dork jealousy. No, actually, I was pretty good at some sports. I was pretty good at volleyball when I was in school. I was really good at serving. Foursquare was fun, although that's not particularly athletic. And I liked gym hockey because I like to slash at other people's ankles. You know, eventually you get caught, you get sent to the bullpen, you get taken out. But until then, there's a reason to be aggressive. Hey, I tried to hit the puck. I accidentally broke this person's ankle. I did sprain somebody's ankle once doing that. It was pretty fun. I had a great time when I was young enough to injure people without any legal worries. Anyway, I'm going to go off now. Not that I haven't been going off for an hour and 10 minutes. I have enjoyed my time with you all. Keep in mind on 2/22/22, or actually, for Europeans 22/22, I'll be doing a special occult live stream. I will also be streaming on the 1st of March for the State of Union that Biden will be making. I realize it'll be like 3 a.m. here, but I'll pound down a bunch of coffee and I'll get through it. It'll be a fun time because I'll get to spend a couple hours ridiculing every lie that comes from Biden's mouth. It may take longer than the State of the Union is for me to cover all of the lies because that'll be every other sentence. That's about all. Peace out.